When the aliens found the human child in a galaxy that has long forgotten Earth, an alien exploration team discovers a small human child sleeping inside a stasis pod buried on a dying moon. None of them have ever seen a human before. Only legends remain of the Makers, the extinct species that once ignited the stars. As the child awakens, the universe itself begins to remember. The survey vessel Orin's Grace drifted through the silence of the Varelian Rim, its hull gleaming against the pale light of a dying sun. Around it stretched a field of shattered moons, their orbits twisted from some long-forgotten catastrophe. To most travelers, this was a dead sector, nothing but relic dust and the long, cold shadows of history. But Captain Soral Thane had learned to listen for whispers in dead places. He stood at the forward viewport, 6 golden eyes reflecting the faint pulse of their scanning arrays. Behind him, the rest of the crew, 5 distinct species, 5 survivors of different wars, moved with cautious purpose. The Grace was not a warship, not anymore. It was a seeker, a listener among ghosts. "Captain," called Ensign Vara, her voice a melodic ripple that translated gently into standard. "We've got an anomaly on the 4th moon. Subsurface structure, definitely artificial." Soral's gaze sharpened. "Age estimate?" "Hard to say. Our readings don't match any known civilization. It's old." Vara hesitated, her crest flickering faint blue. "Older than the Varelian collapse. Maybe older than light itself." The captain turned toward the main console. "Set down. Let's see what's still sleeping down there." The Grace descended through thin violet-tinged clouds, landing on a plateau of black stone. The landscape was scarred and glassed, as if once kissed by stellar fire. Shards of crystalline metal jutted from the ground like the bones of titans. Their scanners picked up faint energy traces, steady, rhythmic, impossibly precise. A heartbeat beneath the soil. The team disembarked into the thin, cold air. The sky stretched wide and colorless, pierced by the light of twin suns sinking toward the horizon. The silence was absolute but not empty, it felt. Vara knelt beside a half-buried structure, a curved vault of silvery alloy, smooth as melted ice. "This metal, it's self-healing," she murmured, nanostructural memory intact after who knows how many eons. Dr. Rain, the ship's xenotech historian, approached with cautious reverence. His tendrils trembled as he brushed the dust from ancient glyphs etched into the metal. "I've seen this pattern before," he whispered. "In pre-Exodus archives. Some called it Terran, some called it human. The others froze." "Human?" Vara echoed softly. "That's just a myth." Rain shook his head slowly. "Maybe, but myths have roots." Soral crouched, running a gloved hand along the surface. It thrummed faintly, almost aware. "Get it open," he said. Carefully. They worked in silence, melting layers of stone and carbonized debris until the vault opened like a blooming flower. A soft glow poured out, warm, pale, and alive. Inside lay a chamber of white metal, untouched by time, and at its center was a pod. It was small, barely 2 meters long, shaped like a seed. Transparent material covered the upper half, through which they could see. A child, perfectly still, perfectly human. Her hair floated gently in stasis suspension, strands of gold beneath a soft blue light. A single tear shimmered on her cheek, frozen there for eternity. Vera's voice trembled. "By the stars, she's alive." Rain's tendrils curled tightly. "Impossible. Humanity vanished over 20 millennia ago. Their homeworld burned, their colonies erased." Soral said nothing. He only stared at the child's face, so fragile, yet radiant with something fierce and unyielding. Hope, maybe, or memory. The pod's monitors flickered to life, symbols cascading across the interface. Their translator struggled to keep up. Stasis integrity at 97%. Biological pattern stable. Temporal sync error. Correction complete. Then softly a voice filled the chamber. It was not machine, not alien. It was human. Warm, gentle, ancient. "Hello. Is anyone there?" Vara stumbled backward. Did she just speak?" "No," Ren whispered, eyes wide. "That's the pod. It's an interface." The voice continued. "If you are hearing this, then the stars still burn. My name is Lyra Cade. I am, or was, mission specialist aboard the Ark of Sol. To whoever finds this, please tell me, did we make it?" The message ended. Silence filled the vault again. heavier than before. Saral knelt beside the pod, his reflection shimmering in the curved glass. "She's asking if humanity survived," he said quietly. "What do we tell her?" Wren's voice was barely a whisper. "That she is the last of them." The captain stood slowly. "Not if I can help it." He turned toward the others. "Prepare medbay stasis for biological transfer. We wake her under controlled conditions. Vara, maintain environmental parity. I want this done right." Vara nodded, still dazed. "Captain, if this really is a human child, then we're holding the key to half the galaxy's legends." "Maybe," Saral said. "Or maybe we're holding the beginning of something new." They lifted the pod gently, carrying it through the crimson light of the setting suns. The metallic dust swirled around their feet like whispered blessings. As the Oran's grace rose back toward orbit, the sensors registered something strange, faint pulses across the system. Satellites long dormant beginning to stir. One by one they blinked to life, sending signals into the void, echoes of humanity awakening, answering a call no one remembered making. When Lyra opened her eyes, the stars she saw were not her own. She gasped softly, the air burning sweet and sharp in her lungs. Cold fluid drained from her stasis pod, and warm light fell across her face. She blinked against it, vision hazy, disoriented. Shapes moved around her, tall, elegant, unfamiliar. She thought she was dreaming. Then one of them spoke. The voice was deep, resonant, careful. "You're safe. Do not be afraid." Lyra's lips trembled. "Where am I?" Cyril stepped closer, lowering his tone. "You're aboard the vessel Oran's Grace. We found you on a moon near the Virelian Rim. Do you remember your name?" She nodded slowly. "Lyra Cade, mission specialist, Ark of Sol." Her breath caught. "Where are the others?" Rain exchanged a glance with Vera, both hesitant. Cyril spoke gently. "We found no others, Lyra." The girl looked down, her small hands trembling. "Then we failed." "No," Cyril said. "You survived." He didn't know why he said it, but something in her gaze, so small, yet filled with light, made him believe it was true. Lyra sat upright slowly, wrapped in a thin metallic blanket that shimmered faintly with heat-reactive patterns. The air of the Oran's Grace was different, too thin, faintly sweet, and tinged with a metallic hum she couldn't place. Her eyes moved across the room, curved walls of bronze alloy, luminous lines flowing like veins through them. The crew stood at a careful distance, watching her as if she were made of starlight and glass. Saral was the first to step forward. He was tall, almost twice her height, his skin a deep silvery hue with subtle ridges along his jawline. His golden eyes studied her not with fear, but reverence. "I'm Captain Saral Thane," he said softly. "You're aboard my ship. Can you understand me clearly?" Lyra nodded weakly. "Yes, the translator matrix. It's functioning. You speak Standard?" Reen tilted his head, fascinated. "Standard? You mean human linguistic root code?" "That language has been dead for 20 millennia. Lyra blinked. "Then how do you—" "The pod transmitted a packet of data when we opened it," Vera explained. "Our systems adapted automatically. We didn't even notice until we realized we were all speaking." "Your tongue." Lyra looked down, trying to steady her breathing. The world, or whatever this was, felt both alien and impossibly ancient. "What year is it?" she asked quietly. Rain hesitated. "By our star calendar, year 26, 474 post-Exodus." Lyra's heart froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She gripped the blanket tightly, staring down at her trembling hands. 26,000 years. Her family, her mission, her world. All dust. She whispered, "The Ark. It was meant to preserve what was left of us. We launched dozens, hundreds, each carrying fragments of our species. If you found me—" Her voice cracked. "Then maybe the others—" Saral shook his head slowly. "We scanned the moon and its orbit. There were no other pods intact." Lyra's shoulders slumped. "So it's just me." The silence in the room deepened. None of the aliens spoke. They didn't know how to comfort something so small, so fragile, and yet so infinite in significance. Finally, Saral spoke. "Lyra, humanity is remembered even now. Not in detail, but in myth. The builders, the ones who lit the stars." Lyra looked up, eyes glistening. "Lit the stars?" Vara nodded softly. "Our oldest records say your people were the first to reach beyond a single system. That you seeded worlds with life, built the early networks of stellar travel, Even now, our drives run on designs traced back to your kind. Lyra's expression wavered between disbelief and wonder. You mean, you're all here because of us? Ren smiled faintly, his tendrils curling. Because of what you began. And what you left behind. She let the words sink in. They filled the empty space where grief had been, reshaping it into something else. Something fragile, but alive. Then maybe, she said quietly, we didn't fail after all. Later, as the Oran's Grace sailed through the scarlet nebula beyond the rim, Lyra stood at the viewport. She pressed her palm against the glass, watching the light ripple through her reflection. Cyril joined her, standing a respectful distance away. You've been quiet, he said. Lyra smiled faintly. I'm trying to remember what it felt like to be home. Do you remember much? Pieces. She closed her eyes. The hum of engines beneath my feet. My mother's voice reading constellations to me. The last thing I remember before the cryopod sealed was her saying, sleep until the stars are kind again. Cyril's gaze softened. And now they are. Lyra turned toward him. Are they? He didn't answer. Outside, the nebula rolled like a slow-burning ocean. After a moment, Lyra spoke again. You said humanity is a myth. What do they say about us? Cyril folded his arms. That you burned too bright. That your reach exceeded even the gods of your making. Some say you vanished because you found what you were searching for, and left this galaxy behind. Others say you destroyed yourselves. And what do you believe? I believe, he said, that something powerful doesn't vanish. It leaves a mark deep enough that even time can't erase it. Lyra met his gaze. For a moment, silence carried more weight than any history book ever could. Then Vara's voice came through the intercom. Captain, you'll want to see this. We've got movement. Automated satellites across the sector. They're activating. Cyril and Lyra exchanged a glance, then hurried to the bridge. The main display filled with holographic projections, thousands of faint points blinking to life across the star map. They formed lines, patterns, constellations that weren't random. Ren whispered, those are beacons, ancient human relays. They've been dormant for millennia, Vera added. Whatever signal woke them came from the pod. Lyra stepped closer to the projection. The blinking lights pulsed in rhythm, slow, deliberate. That's not random, she said softly. It's a message. Cyril turned to her. Can you read it? I think so. She reached out, her fingers tracing the pattern. It's Old Terran binary. A location marker, and she hesitated, her breath catching. A name. Vara leaned forward. A name? Lyra nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Sol. The word hung in the air, heavy, ancient, sacred. Rain's tendrils went still. Sol, the cradle world. The origin. Lyra stared at the glowing points. It's calling home. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Cyril straightened, his tone resolute. Set a course. If the beacons are awake, then something's waiting for us. Vara hesitated. Captain, if we follow that signal, we could cross into forbidden sectors. The Orion Accord forbids entry into old human space. Those regions are unstable, haunted by collapsed gates and radiation storms. Cyril's eyes never left the projection. We just found a living human child after 26,000 years. The universe can keep its rules. Lyra looked at him, confused but moved. You'd risk that. For me? He smiled faintly. For what you represent. Maybe you were meant to wake now, Lyra. Maybe your people left you as a message for us. A reminder. Of what? That even extinction isn't the end of the story. The Oran's Grace turned toward the distant beacon chain, engines flaring like twin suns. Behind them, the moon of echoes fell silent once more, its vault sealed beneath drifting dust. But deep below, other pods began to stir. Sensors blinked faintly in the dark, responding to a signal older than civilization itself. The child of Earth had awakened, and the stars were remembering. Lyra woke to the sound of soft footsteps and the scent of metal warmed by sunlight. For a moment, she forgot she was 26,000 years from everything she had ever known. Then the hum of the ship brought her back. She sat up slowly. The small cabin around her was simple. Curved walls of silver alloy, faintly luminous veins pulsing through them like gentle heartbeats. The bed adapted to her movements, reshaping itself to support her posture. Beside her, a tray held a transparent cup filled with pale blue liquid that shimmered faintly when touched. Lyra hesitated, then drank. It was cool and sweet, not water, but close enough to comfort. The door slid open with a whisper, and Vera entered carrying a thin holographic tablet. The alien's skin reflected soft turquoise light, her crest rising in a sign of polite curiosity. "You slept for 7 cycles," Vera said. "The med systems say you're stable now." Lyra blinked. 7 cycles? That's how long? 2 days in your old measurements. Vara smiled faintly. "You heal fast for a creature that small." Lyra couldn't help but laugh softly. "We had to. The universe wasn't kind to us." Vera tilted her head. "You remember your home?" Lyra hesitated. "Fragments. I remember the ocean. Blue so deep it looked like space. I remember mountains and clouds and the hum of engines when the Ark launched." Her expression grew distant. "I remember my father's hand. He told me we were going to light new worlds." Vera's eyes shimmered. "You did. The worlds we live on, all of them are built on your people's ruins." Lyra turned toward her, surprised. "You make it sound like we were gods." "Not gods," Vara said softly, "but close enough to scare the ones that came after." On the bridge, Captain Soral and Dr. Wren studied the readings projected above the navigation console. A web of light spread across the holographic map, thousands of dormant satellites that had awakened in response to Lyra's pod. "They're linked," Wren murmured. "Every signal leads toward a single coordinate cluster, near the Perseid singularity. That's where the cradle must be." "The old Sol system," Soral said quietly. "If it still exists," Reen's tendrils flexed nervously. "If it does, it will not be empty. Those sectors have been sealed for centuries. Whole fleets vanished trying to chart them." Soral's eyes gleamed faint gold. "And yet the signal calls." "We're going," Reen sighed, resigned. "You've always had too much human in you, Captain." Soral almost smiled. "Maybe that's why I found her." Later that cycle, Lyra was brought to the observation deck. A wide dome of transparent crystal overlooking the ship's hull and the stars beyond. The galaxy spilled before her like liquid light, oceans of gold and indigo. Veined with dust and memory, she pressed her hand against the glass, awe flooding through her chest. "I've never seen it like this," she whispered. "Not from this far out. Not awake." Soral joined her quietly. "Beautiful, isn't it?" "Hard to believe it ever needed saving." Lyra turned. "Does it still need saving?" He looked out at the endless stars. "Always." For a moment they stood together in silence, two beings separated by tens of thousands of years, yet somehow bound by the same wonder. Lyra glanced sideways. "Your people. How many species are there now?" Soral thought for a moment. 56 in the Accord, another 100 beyond its borders, all with their own wars, their own memories. "Do they all know about us?" "Some worship you," Soral said simply. "Others fear you. A few deny you ever existed." The truth became too heavy to carry across millennia. Lyra's voice softened. "And what do you believe?" He turned to her, his golden eyes steady. "I believe you're proof that hope doesn't die. It just waits." As the ship slipped through the Varelian passage, Wren worked tirelessly to decode fragments of the data stream emerging from Lyra's pod. He called her into the lab one cycle to show her something. When she entered, the lights dimmed, and a holographic projection bloomed into the air, a spinning sphere of blue and white. Haloed by clouds and sunlight, Earth. Lyra gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "That's home." Reen's tendrils twitched gently. "Recovered from your pod's memory bank. It's beautiful." Lyra stepped closer, tears welling in her eyes. "It was everything to us. Every dream, every story, every life started there." Reen hesitated. "Lyra, the last recorded images of Earth show it burning." She nodded, her voice barely audible. "I know, the wars. We tore ourselves apart." Wren lowered his gaze. "And yet you built arcs, hoping for a second chance." Lyra smiled faintly through her tears. "That's what humans do. We ruin things, then we build again. Sometimes that's what saving means." Wren looked at her for a long moment. "If your species could begin again now, would you?" Lyra thought about it, about all the light and shadow of her ancestors, all the broken things left behind. Then she said quietly, "Yes, but better this time." As days turned into weeks, Lyra began to adapt. She learned the ship's controls, the alien language, and the small rituals of its crew. In return, they taught her the modern galaxy, the fractured empires, the relic worlds, the laws written in the ashes of a forgotten humanity. But even as she learned, something deep within her stirred. a pull she couldn't explain. She would wake in the middle of the sleep cycle, her skin tingling, her dreams filled with flashes of light, distant cities, and faces she couldn't name. Vera noticed the change. "You're glowing," she said one morning, her crest pulsing faintly. Not metaphorically, literally. Lyra looked down. Her veins shimmered faintly under the skin like threads of starlight. "I don't understand," she whispered. Reen scanned her readings and frowned. Her cells are interacting with the ship's power field. It's like her body remembers the technology that created it. Soral's tone was quiet but firm. "She's not just human anymore. She's something evolved. A bridge between the past and what comes next." Lyra stared at her hands. "What if that's what I was made for?" Cyril's gaze softened. Then the universe chose the right person to wake. When they finally reached the edge of the Perseid singularity, the ship's hull began to shimmer with radiation. The stars outside warped into streaks of light as gravitational distortions rippled across the void. Vera adjusted the shields. "Captain, this region shouldn't exist. These gravity patterns, they're artificial." Reen's eyes widened. "It's a structure. A Dyson lattice, a shell around a black hole. Only humanity ever attempted something like that," Lyra whispered. "The Arc Network. It's still here." A pulse of light erupted ahead of them, vast, slow, and rhythmic, like the beating of a cosmic heart. Then a voice filled the bridge. Soft, ancient, human. Signal confirmed. Arc node awakening. "Welcome home, child of Sol," Lyra gasped, her chest tightening. Soral looked at her. "What is it?" she whispered. "It's the Arc AI. It's been waiting. For me." The Orin's grace drifted into the heart of the glowing structure, a lattice of broken rings orbiting a black hole, each fragment covered in ancient lights flickering to life. It was both cathedral and tomb, singing with the voices of the dead. Lyra stepped forward, her reflection caught in the viewport. "You said we were myths," she murmured. "But myths are just memories that refuse to die," Soral nodded. "And now one of them is awake." The ship's systems began to respond to unseen commands. Old human technology intertwined with alien interfaces, merging like two halves of a long-forgotten design. Vera stared at the data streaming across the screens. "Captain, it's rewriting our systems." Lyra's eyes glowed softly with the same light now pulsing through the ship. "No," she said. "It's remembering them." Far beyond the lattice, something stirred, massive and distant. An awakening echo of human creation spread across the galaxy. Ancient ships buried under dust, satellites cold for millennia, cities on forgotten moons. They began to pulse with the same rhythm as Lyra's heartbeat.